And we are officially live. Everybody, my name is Wes.
I'm Lori.
And my name's Matt.
And we have the whole crew here for this accounting boot camp.
Because this is a big deal.
This is a huge deal.
We brought out the big guns. We got Lori here.
Yes. So jump on in the chat. Let us know you're here. We're having this. If you're not joining live, by the way, you can't jump in the chat in real time, but you can still reach out to our support team. But before we dive into all the stuff, just give a few resources to help everybody out. First and foremost, if you're like me and you like to learn how to do things by watching YouTube videos like this one, then definitely check out our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe. That way you can get notified of all our upcoming live streams and all of our cool videos we launch. Lori, tell them about our Facebook group.
So, Wes, we have a really killer Facebook group with a lot of good moderators in there. And these people in the Facebook group are actually true users. They are actually people who experience ChurchTrac just like you do.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat just seeing the conversations that happen in that group, because it's not always ChurchTrac stuff, but it's just like, hey, my church is doing shopping right now for like new insurance. Can someone help give us some recommendations? And so it's kind of neat seeing that. And then just to really reinforce this, when you're in the software in ChurchTrac, if you ever need help, we have this help button in the top right corner of the screen, and it's in this very obnoxious tangerine color.
Don't say obnoxious.
No, but as a Florida fan, I appreciate this. But when you select that help button, it brings down a drop-down menu. Depending on where you are in the software, it'll show you related help topics. So like, for example, if I go to the accounting screen here in ChurchTrac, and I go to that help button, well, getting started with accounting is getting recommended to me. And then you could also just go straight to asking our team a question if you do have a question, or you can just go straight to those articles and start learning more. We've got a lot of articles. Hey, there's a video of Matt there. So a lot of content here. And we're going to be kind of referring back to this user guide a few times just because so many things we're going to be talking about today.
Absolutely.
We have these great user guide articles and step-by-steps that are going to walk us through that.
Yeah, and definitely stay in the chat because I'll be dropping links for these articles and other resources in the chat as we go. And I'll be monitoring the chat. If you have questions, don't hesitate to jump in and ask. I'll try to answer them in the chat or even call them out and we'll answer them live here in the video. But no matter what, by the end of this video, we will have a Q&A time. So if we don't get to your question or if I don't answer it in the chat, just hang tight. You can ask it then and we'll tackle it when we get to it.
All right. Well, I think everybody that wants to be here live is here.
Yes.
And we're going to go ahead and get started. And, you know, for this boot camp today, Lori, I wanted us to just have some very good actionable takeaways and everything. And so starting things out with just the initial setup. What does that look like in ChurchTrac? And then we're going to dive into the core features. Obviously, we can't get super deep in just an hour here, but
that's what support's for.
Yes, that is. And our user guide, too, with all the videos. And then kind of round things off. Matt's got some really good pro tips that he wants to share that I think will really help give that added benefit to so many church leaders who are wanting to do a whole lot of ministry with such a little amount of time. And one of your pro tips, not to spoil it, but it saves a ton of time.
Yes,
so.
Really excited.
All right. Well, Lori, let's go ahead. I'm going to log into this account. And for this particular live stream, I've created a fresh account that actually has no data added into it. This is exactly what an account looks like in ChurchTrac the moment you go in there for the first time. It's got a couple dummy data points there. But I'm on the accounting screen, which is what we're talking about today. And Lori, there's nothing here.
There's nothing there. So this is really cool, Wes, because by starting with a fresh account, we are able to actually show our users what it's going to look like when they open this page. Don't be alarmed. Our user guide, which is actually such a great tool, and I point people to this every day. Our team points people to this. It actually says to start with creating funds. Okay. So if you go to the funds tab at the top in the light blue menu bar, we actually have already prepared, Wes, funds for you to start with. Not every church uses this many funds. Not every church uses more than 4, more than 5. We actually say in our user guide not to use a lot of funds. There's a trick to that.
This is so important. We got to pause and talk about just funds before we start adding all the things.
Fund?
Yeah. What is a fund?
So in reality, Wes, a fund is nothing more than a bucket that that allows you to keep all of your money in and with labels, sticky notes. If anybody watched our accounting live stream at the end of December, God, what month is it in? I can't even remember at this point. We talked about sticky notes being labels for your money, but the fund is the bucket that the money lives in. So what we tell you to do is create your funds first. And we started this for you. The general fund is not a deletable fund. It's very important that you know that because it's the main fund that you will use for everything in ChurchTrac accounting.
And you can see that here too when I go to select a different fund. I can delete those funds, but the general fund is undeletable.
Intentionally. You can rename it. I mean, I tell people all the time, I don't care if you call it peanut butter and jelly. The fact of the matter is this is the main bucket that you're going to use. Okay? That's good. Main fund. Now he says it can't be edited. That's even more
I think it's
interesting.
because I did something else. But yeah, general fund, and there you go.
General. Okay? When you start with these funds, if you use multiple funds, okay, for things like, and I have gone in and seen ladies ministry, men's ministry, these kind of things. If you have those, create them. If you don't need anything more than we have here, don't do anything here.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you're going to pop over to your categories menu. We also pre-filled this for you. We put things in here that most churches that we have dealt with have a need of. Okay. So we created this. If you'll scroll down this page a smidge for me, we also included, not quite that far.
Okay.
Payroll categories. Before you go in and delete these categories, learn how the program works so that you know how this works before you start making changes. Okay, so they're built in here intentionally to help you out. If you find that you want to call them something else, but leave them here for the beginning. Okay, and if you just scroll through slowly so people can read through here, you'll see that we have intentionally created things in here that you will use. Okay, click on miscellaneous expense for me, please, Wes.
Yeah.
When you have a category in place, or if you create a category, you're going to have properties. And if you cut my hands off, I couldn't talk. But you're going to have properties on the right-hand side. Notice in those properties, you have an income or expense category.
Yes.
This is actually very important because it determines how it's used and how it reflects on your reports and in your budget.
Okay.
So make sure you set your income or expense. The status needs to be active to be usable. Scroll down. And then the default fund. This is really important. This is a set item, and I love this about our software because this helps it work in the background. So if your miscellaneous expenses come in the form of another fund, then you can set that fund here. Typically, it would be general fund. But if you need to change it, you can. So keep in mind, you want to set these defaults because this is going to help everything that you do in giving and in your transactions window work.
So basically, at the end of the day, when it comes to like funds versus categories, funds are the buckets and categories are the labels
They're
in ChurchTrac.
sticky note labels. Yep, just stick them on
And I think this is so important and this is why we're taking our time with this initial setup, because a lot of people are coming from another program that may use something like a chart of accounts. And so then they come to ChurchTrac and they're like, well, categories, what does that
What's
mean?
a category, right?
It's very similar. It's almost like tomato, but just understanding the role of the funds and the role of the categories. And the average church, and correct me if I'm wrong saying this, but your typical church using our software in the way it's intended is probably only going to have anywhere from 4 to 10 funds at most, depending on their needs. And then in terms of categories, I mean, they could have 100 categories in there. And then when it comes to accounts, which we'll hit on in a minute, they may have like 3-4 accounts, just depending on the complexities and their needs. Yeah.
It is absolutely important, Wes, to understand that you do not want a category and fund correlation, a one-to-one. It's not intended to be that way. It's actually a many-to-one correlation. So you can have a lot of categories associated with your general fund, and then for designated contributions or projects, that's where you would have your separate funds.
Okay. Now, knowing all this, I think it would be really good to just show this user guide article we have.
Please
because
do.
This user guide article really kind of lays the foundation of it. And so when you go to our Getting Started with Accounting article, definitely recommend watching the video, and it just kind of goes through everything. View the basic terminology and examples guide. I love this because I'm very visual.
Look, it's Matt again.
Yeah, Matt, you're in so many of these accounting videos. But I love this little chart that we have down here, if I can get to it.
There.
I'll zoom in on it just so everyone can see this a little better. This chart really gave me the light bulb moment of, aha, now I see how funds interact with accounts and everything. So definitely recommend churches check out this article,
Yes.
get familiar with what funds are, with what categories are, and the verbiage and how it's used in ChurchTrac. We've got all that laid out. And another really great resource when we go back here to that getting started is the article we have just on setting up accounting. It's going to go in all the details of setting up accounting. And also we have just a little blip here about people that are switching from QuickBooks. So if you're coming from a program like QuickBooks, would you say, Lori, like the three biggest differences we've laid out here? Number one, ChurchTrac doesn't use a chart of accounts. We call it categories, similar but different. Accounts in ChurchTrac are actual bank accounts. So like your checking account, your savings account. And then ChurchTrac uses an income statement, which in the business world of accounting, we call that profit and loss, but we're in fund accounting land, and this is a income statement.
Wes, what's really cool about our user guide is it's specific to how church treasurers, church finance people use and do accounting in the program. So we're not CPAs, we're not professionals with having to do taxes and accounting and that kind of thing, but we can tell you how to implement your accounting needs within the ChurchTrac program. So it's very important to understand our goal is to help you do accounting effectively.
And I think that's such a great opportunity for me to say just a quick legal disclaimer. This content is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, or tax advice. So consult with an actual CPA, someone who has the degree in all these things. But when it comes to helping you use our software to keep track of your books and stuff, that's what we're here for, is using ChurchTrac. We're not here to give you advice on what different financial vehicles to use and all these other things and how to do your taxes. That is for the professional that focuses on that. Okay, now, moving past that, Lori,
yes,
we've talked about the role of funds and how to set those up. We've talked about categories, what that looks like. Now let's jump back over to the software because there's still one last piece of the setup in ChurchTrac.
What's really cool is you can't use any of this unless you actually set up your accounts. And like you just said, accounts in ChurchTrac are actual financial accounts. They're bank accounts, they're savings accounts, credit cards, because you can have an asset and a liability account. It is, Wes, very, very important to remember when you're setting up accounts to choose the right one. So let's walk through that process. Okay. We actually had this question this week of a customer making this mistake and wanting to make the change, and you can't do it once it's done. So I'll give you more information.
Let's do a checking account.
Click it.
So add a bank account.
Okay. We have designed this, and I say our product team has actually taken the time to think about how best to support you when you're creating your bank account. So it asks you, A, is this a financial account that holds a balance you want to track? So say yes.
All right.
Next.
Descriptive name for this account. So we're going to call this our checking. And what type of account is this, Lori?
This is a checking account, so therefore it is an asset account. Okay, it's got real money in it. Hopefully you're not in the negative.
All right. And now if we were tracking credit cards, we would select the liability. I love this too, just because for new treasurers who are new to the game and they're like, asset,
defined.
liability, untracked, what does all this mean? Well, we define it here for you to help you. But again, if you need some more clarity, just check out our user guide or reach out to our team. All right. So this is an asset. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Okay. What is the start date for the statement?
And what does that mean, Wes? Some new users will be like, I don't know what that means. What statement? Your bank statement. Yep. So it's the bank statement that of the month you're starting with. It's the day before actually, and then you're going. And that's so that you don't look like you got an influx of money at the first of the year.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and then the balance on that statement. You do not make this balance up. You actually need to reference the bank statement at the top. It's going to have your ending balance from that month with that date. So you're going to pick that and put it in here.
So in this situation, I've looked at my bank statement, and let's say my bank statement says $31,000, $456.54.
There you go. Okay. Now you just click the create account button and bada bing, there it is. Just like that. Now, to get information into this account, you have to actually open it. So you're going to click the checking account double click it, open it, boom, there's your beginning balance transaction. This transaction, Wes, is editable. Not edible, but editable. So that you can go in, if you double click that for me,
Okay.
it will allow you to break out your fund balances by adding a line item. This is critical.
And this is like, all right, full attention to everybody,
Right.
because this is one of the most common things I see in new users. All right, so just to quickly close out here, because I want to set the stage of what new users encounter, is they create their account and they followed half of our user guide. They put in their beginning balance, but then they're like, but all my beginning balance is in my general fund. I have no other fund showing any other balances.
How do I get money in my funds?
Yeah, so back to the account where we were. So we click on the beginning balance here to edit it. And then from here, we do what?
You're gonna add a line item.
Okay.
And you add a line for every fund that you are going to put money into. You still need to notate. You picked such an odd number for the amount, but the $31,456.
For our purposes, yeah.
Something simple.
Keep it simple.
So $30,000.
There you go.
Okay.
So now I want to go in and I want to use a missions category, because this is designated money. So missions income, we're going to keep this as simple as humanly possible.
Okay.
Missions. Not interest, missions.
Oh, sorry. I selected the wrong one. Missions income.
Yeah, you can start typing in that field too, Wes, and it'll propagate
I don't know why I
that.
didn't do that. Yeah. So missions.
So
and
say
then,
you have $5,000 in your missions fund. This is going to minus from your general fund, because remember, your beginning balance transaction came from your statement.
Yes.
So now I have $25,000 in my general offerings, general fund.
But then we want to probably add one more fund here.
Say we have $15,000 in building.
Okay. So we'll go here and I'll look up building, because I can search that and it looks like I don't have a category for that, Lori.
So what do you do? Oh, dear Gussie.
I guess I should make one.
There you go, Wes.
So then we can pause on this, go back. And I know it's for some of you are like, oh man, this is taking y'all forever. Why? It's just, this is such a key
intentional.
important
Yes,
part.
it's very intentional.
So then I'm going to go to my categories, Lori, and then I want to add a new category, and I'm going to call this building what? Like expenses?
Program.
Building program?
This is an income category that people can give to, because we're going to start a pledge campaign.
All right. So I've got it. And then default fund, I'm going to make this the building fund.
But remember what I just said. This is an income category.
Yes. So
Critical.
this is huge.
The devil's in the details.
All right,
Okay?
so we've got our income category, and obviously, like churches may want to get more hyper-specific at all the other categories, but we just need to get that one knocked out. So then we can go back to our accounts, we go back to that checking that we were just in, we go back to editing that beginning balance, almost done, and then here I can go back to, okay, we have our missions income, and now I'm going to look up building program. There it is, it's our income. And
Note,
then,
Wes, the building fund popped right in there for you.
Yes.
So you didn't have to select it this time.
I love it. Yeah, I'm so used to it instinctively that I didn't even think to call attention that it did it automatically. So then let's say, okay, we had, let's say 10,000, 1, 2, 3. And then, so then we're going to delete this one down to, what did we say our original amount? So 15,000.
15,000.
So just for the sake of having even numbers, now our total is $30,000, but now I've got it split across my three
Multiple
different funds.
Okay, save this transaction for me, Wes, because I want to call attention to what happens on the account register or accounting screen when we do this.
Okay.
So save and close.
And it's funny, the screen I'm looking at behind you is behind a camera, so I
Can't
occasionally
see.
have to look around.
My bad. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I've got it saved.
Okay, go back to your accounts menu in the blue screen, light blue bar at the top in your accounts menu. So
Okay.
note your fund summary there, Wes.
Love it. Look at that.
That's how you get money in your funds. So it can come from the giving screen, it can come from your beginning balance transaction, it can come from additional transactions you're going to enter in your checking account register.
Cool.
Okay.
So that is like probably the slightly slower version of how to set up everything, but it's so important because if churches don't set it up correctly the right way, it's going to be a challenge for them. Definitely follow our user guide. We've got all these articles that help walk you through this process, a video that does exactly what we did, but even more details. But one thing I do want to just throw out there, well, actually two things. One is please reach out to our team whenever you get everything set up, and we call it an accounting review. We have an official name for it, but it's really not like an official thing. It's just create a support ticket and say, hey, I set up my accounting. Can you look at it for me? And our team would love to do that. You may even have Lori looking at it for you.
May.
And our team will let you know that, like, hey, everything looks great, or they may see something that stands out and say, we probably need to look at your funds. You've got 47 funds right now. Why do you have 47 funds?
Yep.
And then for those of you who are like, hey, Wes, like, this is just scary to me. Like, you've only shown me just one little piece and haven't got into the, like, all the nuts and bolts of this. Can someone just set it up for me and get it all ready? Yes, we can do that. We call this our class service. And Matt will drop the link in the chat for you if that is something you're interested in. I find that churches that find themselves just not comfortable setting things up initially, or churches, Lori, that just don't have the time.
Right.
And they're like, I'm trying to build my website and all these other things. And if I can have your team just set up the accounting for me, that's one less thing for me to have to do by myself, because I wear 37 different hats at my church. So,
and what's really cool about this process for classes, we actually take a month of data, we build the foundation for you, we get all that information in place for you, and then we set you free with that, so that it's not something that you're having to worry about constantly and, oh, did I do it right or whatever, because we are actually not just going to set you free. We actually walk you through how to use what we have set up for you to keep you moving in the right direction.
Awesome. All right. Now, we spend kind of like our getting started live streams. We spend so much time on the people screen. We spent so much time in the setup.
That's okay though. It's
that's
that foundation.
Yes.
That's critical.
Now let's go through. Let's talk about some more of the core features here in accounting. Obviously, we can't go through everything, but just kind of skate through everything to give people an idea of what this thing's capable of doing. So let's just start with the account register, Lori.
Okay. So in the account register, Wes, when you go to add a transaction, there are actually 4 different types of transactions you can add. So there's a button at the bottom and you click it. When you get this screen, you go, well, that kind of looks like a check. Yes, it does. For an expense transaction, it does look like a check. But if you go to transaction type at the top, okay, you have a deposit, you have an account-to-account transfer if you have more than one account that you're going to be using in the program. You also have a fund-to-fund transfer if you're using more than one fund. So these transaction types allow you to function in the software. And what's so cool about this is it actually has a lot of stuff working in the background that enables you to do this with an ease and clarity. And it's such a beautiful process.
Well, and this is something we've recently changed too, just to make account to account and fund to fund transfers easier for church leaders. So it's good having all this there.
And our user guide explains all of this in great detail.
I think it's worth pointing out because I've worked with a few churches that miss this, but this reference, if you select this little arrow, you can select next check number. So if our check number that our church is using is, how about 456 is our first check. Then from here in the future, as I continue to do that reference and hit next check number, it just automatically puts in the next check number, which is cool.
Something even cooler. So we get this a lot. We get, can I use, so go back to your little reference field right there. If you do the drop down arrow, you can see that we have some built-ins for you.
Yeah.
But if you want to call this anything you want to call it, you can free type in that window.
Oh, are you serious?
As a heart attack.
Oh, I did not know you could do that. So I can say like, this is cool, and it will do that.
It will do that.
Okay. Learned something today.
Yeah, all right. But most ministry leaders are probably just going to put a check number, or they might put in like transaction or payment.
If
or
it's a
journal
deposit,
entry.
it might be a Zelle or something like that. So there are reference types that you can update in there for quick site references.
Okay. And so then as far as payee description, we're going to be talking about payees in a second, but like I can just put in here, Matt, I'm going to pay you some money because you did a service. So Matt's Lawn Care. And there we go. Matt's Lawn Care. I can save this for quick entry next time. So you're doing our lawn every month, Matt. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Show payee address. I can put in Matt's real address so people can go stalk him. It's 123 Main Street. Here we go, and continue that. And then from here, I can start putting in the details of that transaction.
Wes, you could also go in, save this transaction for me.
Yeah, and we'll just, obviously I put it in a specific category and fund and everything.
The devil's in the details.
But I'm just going to go ahead and just save it here for now. Okay, save it.
You're battling a
I
camera.
know. I keep
I'm
looking
sorry.
around that light. Yeah.
So now, as you're building your transactions, you're adding payees. So there's a menu item at the top in your light blue bar that says payees. You can choose that option. And in that option, you would see Matt's Lawn Care because you just built it. So
Yeah.
what you're doing in your checkbook register helps you build your payee list. You can also pre-build this list and use this for entering checks in your checking account.
Yeah, and we'll go through payees a little bit more detail because that's such an important feature. When we're back here in the register, I think just to give a quick lay of the land so people can see just kind of everything that's going on here. We have this actions button that gives you some different options available to you. So be aware of that. You can actually add a transaction from there as well. And then just these buttons for adding, editing, printing your checks, reconciling. We'll talk about reconciling in a little bit. So that's just kind of the general lay of the land. Let's talk about bank sync and import because it's already right here anyway, so I might as well talk about it. So Lori, like bank sync, import, what do they do?
Okay, so let's first go back to your accounts menu for me. Because Bank Sync is a feature that you set up from outside of your bank account, and it allows you to, you're using Truist Bank, okay? So if you want to link accounts, you click the button. This allows you to make a connection with your bank. About 90% of banks are part of this process.
In the United States, by the way.
Oh, I beg your pardon. You are correct. You would search it out, select your bank, and then log in, and this would allow you then to sync your transactions.
Yeah.
Okay? When I say sync, Wes, that means it actually takes those transactions, and if you will go back into your checking account, we're going to go to the import sync button.
Okay.
Because once I'm linked, I can go here and I can sync my transactions, and they're going to fill in here. They do not come automatically into your account register because you have to do something with those transactions when they propagate this window.
That's right. And this operates very similarly to a lot of other financial programs, accounting programs that do this same type of feature.
That's correct. So when the transaction is in here, you're going to update the category. You may have to update the payee depending on how the content comes in from your bank. You want to make sure that your funds are right, and that and you may even want to, say you're writing checks or whatever, you may want to put the date, not that the bank provides because that's the date that it cleared the bank, but the date it was actually written. That is, it depends on how you run your banking.
Yeah.
But if you're not using Sync and you want to import a bank statement, you can come into this very same window and go to the Actions button and choose to upload a document from your bank. There are form requirements in there, file type requirements. You cannot upload a PDF, Wes.
Yeah, it's got to be an OFX, QFX kind of file.
But it's going to populate this window.
And I think there's some church leaders I've worked with where they're like, well, my bank doesn't support bank sync, because there are some smaller banks and credit unions out there that don't. It's not the end of the world. And in fact, it's not like it adds much time to your radar of doing all this.
Right.
All you're having to do then is just log in your bank and then just download that file, drop it into ChurchTrac. And then not only is it still fast, but you still get the advantage
Exact same concept.
of having that same concept. But then the other feature we have that I think is worth mentioning is the import rules. So you can start adding rules for all of your transactions. And so, like, for example, here in Jacksonville, like, our electric provider is called JEA. And in this particular situation, I'm going to apply it to all accounts. And that is, if the payee contains, and then I'll put JEA, then automatically apply the action below. And then I can say, I want to change the payee description to power bill. And then set to the category, and then I can put it in my, power category that I'd create and all that good stuff. And so that way I love this, Lori, because it cleans up everything.
It does.
I'm the kind of person, like, it drives me insane when you get like a data dump from a bank, and you all can probably relate to this out there. Sometimes, like, you have to read those transactions from the bank and go, I have no idea what this is.
Right.
And so being able to have the rules in ChurchTrac, be able to apply them, and you can create all these different rules for basically anything and manage those accordingly, and then apply those rules. And you can also retroactively go back and apply them, which I think is kind of cool.
As long as the transaction's in the imports window.
Yes, that's the key. Is it has to be in here, which I don't have any to show, obviously, but yeah, you would go to the actions button, apply those rules. So yeah, rules is a really great thing. Printing checks. Let's move on to that, Lori, because that's a feature that a lot of churches use and love. But when you're on your account register, you can just simply go to print checks.
No, you can't.
Well, it depends, but yes, go ahead and continue.
So, Wes, the key here is that you have to have a check number in place.
Yes.
So if you go to Matt's Lawn Care and you put in a check number.
Oh, I had one in there earlier.
And you took it out because we put this is cool in there.
So we'll put 456, so now I have a check number in there.
Now you save it.
Now when I go to print out my checks.
It's in your queue.
It's in my queue to print, yeah.
What happens if you have 15 checks in here?
They're all going to show up in here in my queue.
How do you print them though?
Well,
you have to select them.
You select each one that you want to print, and
there
then
you
would go ahead and select
and then
print
you print.
checks.
So you don't have to print all of them, especially if it's an electronic check. That's the key. It's going to show up in here because it had a check number if it's an electronic check even. But you don't have to print them all if you hand wrote the check or whatever. But you might not handwrite all of your checks. You may print some. You may handwrite some. However you do that, they're going to show up in here.
And I think it's worth pointing out, too, you don't only have to print checks from here, because this is super common. You'll have someone come to the office, and it'll be like Thursday towards the end of the day, and it's someone that wants to be reimbursed for something they purchased for the church, and they can't wait till Friday.
Right.
And so then you just go to that exact transaction and say, okay, so I just want to print the check for this transaction. I select that, and it goes to print the check, and there you go.
Before you close out of here, Wes, I want to point something out. This is a very common question that support gets asked. When you go to print this check and you pull up your print icon, there's a print menu in there. If that print menu has fit to page checked, your check printing is going to go wonky. So if you uncheck that, then it's going to print evenly down the page.
Yeah.
That's actually critical. It's not about changing all of your settings. It's simply looking for that option to see it's going to...
Yes, if I was putting it to I would never put it on one of these printers, but scale is what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. And
so if you just fit to printable area, okay, again, you're using...
a label printer. Yeah, this doesn't really apply for this printer, but still same concept.
Right, same concept. This is probably the most common problem that we see with check printing, because that skews all the data on your checks, your vouchers, and everything. And it skews down. Like, that's why I did my hands like this, is because it gives the first option at the top, right, and then everything else is skewed down. I'm going to get killed for tapping that mic.
Oh, it's fine.
So once you have your check printed and everything, then your next item, Wes, would be, how do I go in and reconcile all of my checks and my expenses and my income?
And reconcile is a scary word to a lot of people who are new to being the church treasurer, or just people that, are new to this whole idea of, well, what does even reconciliation mean?
Well, reconciliation means you're basically verifying in your checking account what has actually cleared the bank. So the bank is the important matter here. Okay, they're the entity that gives you all of the information. So when you are actually reconciling, you are saying you're checking items off of the list based on your bank statement of what actually cleared the bank this month, what's outstanding. Your reconciliation balance and your bank balance there are not necessarily going to match. And that's actually really important, because if it didn't clear the bank, then your checkbook register has a different total than what your bank account shows.
Mm-hmm. And we've got this great article, because obviously we've got a fresh account. I don't have all these transactions to reconcile.
Exactly.
So see our reconciliation article.
It's a
but
great
it walks
article.
you through step by step, first going and select the reconcile option. And then step 2, you go through here. And I love how our user guide has all these pictures and everything to help me see that. So by following this to reconcile, and I mean, realistically, Lori, like, how long does it take for a church to reconcile, to go back, look at their bank statement and look at their transactions in ChurchTrac and reconcile? If
you're a thorough and detail-oriented individual, this can take you a maximum of 30 minutes. And I mean, if all of your data is already in place in your checking account register, it's a check, 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 check. It's not a check all. There is a check all option. You can't do that. You actually do need to go through the bank statement thoroughly, a line at a time, and check off the items. But that's actually the key to confirming what has cleared the bank and what hasn't. This is actually very important for transparency, Wes, because this is the accountability of the person writing the checks and the bank.
Yeah. And I would say I want to encourage you all who are new to this and the idea of reconciling, going through, checking all this, it's just kind of like it makes me relive my days in high school having to show my work.
Yes.
And that's a big part of reconciliation.
It's huge.
It's showing your work and showing that, yes, we verified it, all this. But the other thing we see behind the scenes that I think is so important that everybody else sees is that typically when we see churches with a lot of issues financially, a big part, well, there's other things too, but a big part is they're not reconciling.
Right.
And because they're not reconciling, they're not catching things sooner than...
Their reports don't work properly. We get this question all the time in support. My reports don't reflect the data. Well, we go in and they haven't reconciled since 2022. Well, I actually can't really help you effectively if I don't know if your information matches what the bank is doing. So there may be transactions in there that are doubled or put in upside down and backwards. And we see it all the time. You put in an expense transaction when it should have been a deposit or whatever. If there's not accountability through that reconciliation process, my hands are tied. I really can't help.
Yeah. And that was a perfect segue to talk about reports. So ChurchTrac, I mean, we have a lot of different reports built in here. I think it's worth pointing out that the most common reports I see church leaders generating pretty fast is their balance sheet. That's a very popular one. And then the income statement, which we kind of already alluded to earlier, but it's the same exact information that a profit loss report would give from like a program like QuickBooks or Aplos, but it is in fund accounting. We call this the income statement. And all these reports in ChurchTrac, for the most part, you can export them to CSV. You can go ahead and view that report. Now, I really have nothing to show in my income statement because I have just started this.
It's a brand new database.
But just to quickly show everybody, when you're generating reports, you have the option to print right here in the top right. I'll zoom in so y'all could see that, but I can go ahead, print that report. It's got the date on there. And then we also have this little cogwheel here. When I select that, it gives me some report options where I can go through here and I can change the title, colors, the font. I love how I can just like condense things and really like make it what I want. But I've worked with so many leaders that let's just say that they've had years of experience and their experience says make the font much bigger because when you're looking at numbers, you want to make sure you're not looking at the wrong stuff. So I just love that you can quickly edit that. Now, there's power users out there, and I think this is probably one of the hardest things when we're creating a software like this is having a software that's accessible both to people who they're new to the job of treasurer, but then people who are CPA and they're doing this for their church on the side, and they've got 20 years of accounting experience. And it's like, how do you make a program that's successful for both of those? And so that's part of the reason we took this approach of the reports. A lot of them are very basic in how they're presented, but we also give you the ability to export many of those reports to CSV because we do know there are a lot of power users. And I'm one of those people. I nerd out on Excel sheets. And so I just appreciate that I can export stuff to CSV, combine things, do all that fun stuff and everything.
So I would like Wes to talk about the balance sheet for just a second.
Okay. Just a second, though.
Just a second. So when you look at your balance sheet, if you'll do that view report for me, I know we don't have any content in here to look at, but you can see the formatting of the report. So click the view report for me. I know you can't see through the camera. Notice your fund balances that we entered are showing here, and it's showing your checking account. We don't have any liabilities listed. In the balance sheet for ChurchTrac, this has nothing to do with income and expenses. These are your accounts, your true bank accounts, not a chart of accounts. That's the income statement. This is a list of your bank accounts, your liability accounts, and what those balances are and how much money you have in each one based on the fund.
Yeah.
Okay, it's critical that our users understand that because we get this question and we've had it already this week. My balance sheet doesn't reflect my chart of accounts. You are correct. It does not. That is your income statement. Your income statement is going to show all of your income categories and all of your expense categories and what has been spent via those labels and the balances of those buckets.
Yeah.
So it's really important for users to understand how that works. We have great other reports. So if you're looking for something specific that you're just not seeing, please reach out to us because support can help guide you. But most of our reports are really exactly what they say under the description, and it gives you that information. We try to
be very descriptive with those. And when you're generating a report, just make sure you pick your start date and your end date. That's super important.
Show them that for me, Wes.
Yeah, just showing that real fast. You can also just select an exact date as well if you want to do that.
Wait, how did you get that little calendar thing?
I just selected it right here.
The white bar. That's right. So just clicking in the white gives you a calendar. Well, what happens if I have stuff that goes back to 2023 in here because I have an old account? How do I get that?
Well, you just go in here and jump down.
Oh, so I get those features. That's really cool. Okay, I like it.
This feels condescending, Lori.
I'm sorry. We get users that are very confused about how to go back in time because they only see what's in the drop-down menu.
Yeah.
That calendar picker is actually critical for being able to access your content from the past.
Yeah.
Because you're only going to get through last year, literally, and that's all.
All right, now we're going to really go hyperspeed here because, and a lot of these other features we don't have to spend as much time on because we've already alluded to them a little bit and talked, but like the payees we talked about earlier as we move from the left to the right on your radio dial. The payees, this is where we're creating all of our memorized transactions. And so there's Matt's lawn care we made earlier. I see a lot of churches, Lori, they go through and they will put all their payees and everything on there. I really appreciate the payee report. That you can generate that shows all of your different payees. Now I only have one payee here, but if I had more,
it would show, and it shows how much you pay through that payee. So that's what it's showing is the person you're paying, the transaction type. If you screwed that up, that's going to show here. At least you'll know you're depositing $200 into Matt's account instead of expensing it from the church. But the information is very functional, Wes.
Yeah, and so that's payees. Kind of moving along, I think the other thing we want to mention is the search bar.
Yes.
And search bar, this is funny, Lori, because this is probably the most used feature by support.
You bet your sweet petunias.
Because it gives you the ability, because this is where we can search all of your transactions. Because right now, and it's hard to see on this account because I only have one transaction. But as your church starts having hundreds of transactions in
years of data.
Years of data, even just 1 year of data, you can have 1,000 transactions. I mean, my bank alone has that many. But I can go in here, I can search by start date, end date, payee contains a certain thing. I can reference certain account. I can reference an exact dollar amount and category and all this stuff. Like, we make it really, really easy to find the transactions you're looking for. But not only that, once you find the transactions you're looking for,
you can get a report.
You can generate a report. Now, it's not giving me that option right now because I only have one transaction. But let's say I was wanting to search all the transactions from this particular mission trip or whatever it may be, and then there's 30 of those transactions. Well, then view report would light up, export to CSV would light up. So then I can quickly generate that report.
So let me tell you one of my other favorite things in here. If you find the transaction that you messed up on, you can click that little green circle at the end that says plus, and it shows you the details. So now you know what you used in that transaction. If you double click that transaction, it opens the transaction and you can correct it here.
What if it's reconciled?
Then you can't correct it here.
That's I wanted to, just because I knew someone was probably thinking that, so I wanted to jump ahead.
If it's a reconciled transaction, you actually have to go back and unreconcile the time period back to that transaction. So if you have 9 months of reconciled transactions and this was back from March of last year, you have to unreconcile each month. Fix the transaction.
So categories to enter things in the right way first.
Categories and funds can be edited, but amounts cannot. You will have to fix that, and you can't change the transaction type.
All right, now budgets is a big one, and we have an entire, I think we did an entire live stream just on budgets, but we have videos that walk you through that. But the thing I really appreciate about budgets, Lori, is when I go to create a budget, so like right now I have no budget. I can't select one because I've never made one. And so when I go to the actions to create a new budget,
you can't do anything else.
I have
either.
no options on the actions except create a budget. I love that. Like, it automatically, I can just start pulling all these categories in here. And these are categories it's pulling in, by the way. These aren't funds. These are all the categories. And here on this actions button, I've got the ability to check all categories, uncheck categories, check parent categories only, whatever you want to do. And I just love this because I can say, okay, this is our 2026 budget. It starts January 1st, blah, blah, blah. I go ahead and I create the budget. Please enter a name for this budget. I thought I already did.
It just auto creates it for you,
so
but you kind
budget
of have to.
2026, there we go. And then I can add this budget. And then the process of building out a budget in ChurchTrac is really just going in here and then selecting that item and then putting, okay, what is the amount that I want to budget towards this item? Is this yearly? Is this monthly? And once I've done that process, so like let's say our budget for this particular item is, I don't know, $30,000. I'm just using so many random numbers here, but there we go. I've got it in here and it's going and totaling it already. And then I just keep repeating that and I've got a budget created right there.
And then it's a monthly budget. So while you set this up for a year, in ChurchTrac, budgets are 12 months.
Yep.
So, and here's the other cool part. What if you needed to start this in September?
I can do that.
You can edit the budget and go back and change your start date. So even if you're using this and you want to go back in time, okay, you can go back to September 1st if you want to and just change your year. Then you're going to have a budget that's 12 months from September 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it works for you. So it's really, really cool. Budgets are easy. And Wes, all of your budget reports are found under the actions menu in the budgets screen. So we have quite a few really cool budget reports.
Yeah, a lot of our budget reports. And I really appreciate that once you create a budget in your church, every year after that in budget season for your church, it's really just going through making some tweaks to your categories, making some tweaks to the numbers. Hopefully all those numbers are going up. And that's pretty much it. So definitely clone the budget. And it's right here. You just hit clone budget and there you're done.
And there you're done.
So
well, you have to go back and tweak your numbers.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't have to rebuild it. You don't have to think about it. And I do want to mention this. If you need to say you clone your budget, Wes, and you want to take a category out of your budget, you just simply edit the budget.
Or I could just delete the category too.
You could delete it there too. But if you want to look at it as a whole, you can edit the budget. And everybody thinks that when you do this, you can uncheck the box. You don't uncheck the box. You actually hit the little trash can on the side. That trash can then just says, are you sure you want to delete this from your budget? You're not deleting this from your entire database, just the budget.
That's so important, yeah, because sometimes that can get confusing. You're like, oh no, am I going to delete all the categories?
Right.
No. It's just from your budget.
Just one item for your budget. So it's simple to fix.
All right. Well, we are flying through so much stuff, Matt.
Yes.
And I know there have been a lot of good questions there in the chat. And if we haven't gotten to your question, it's not because we're ignoring you. It's just there's so many questions, and sometimes we get questions where we're just like, hey, this is more of a support one-on-one situation,
right.
Especially in a public forum. Like, I don't want a church telling us all their financial.
Please don't.
And that way we can look at it together one-on-one with you and your church. But Matt, we've covered all these features and everything, just setting things up, and then just the general feature set of ChurchTrac accounting. You've got some really great pro tips that I think every church should do. Let's hear them.
Yeah, so step one, or pro tip one, set up your payees and do that as soon as possible. This is going to help streamline your accounting because, like we were showing you with my my pretend lawn care company, by having a payee, you can just quickly inject a transaction with all the appropriate data very quickly. So it'll speed up your accounting and save your time. But the payees can also show up in like the import rules and also in the automations.
Yes.
So just having those created now will allow you to leverage other features in accounting, which will make this even better and even easier. So do that as soon as possible.
Love it. All right, what's another good one you've got for us?
Automate your accounting reports.
Ooh.
How do I do that?
So you go to the settings feature or settings page.
And this is not on the accounting screen.
Yeah,
this
is not on accounting screens. You got to go to settings. There's an automations option in the toolbar at the top. This is where you can create automations for a lot of things in your account, but you can also automate sending your accounting reports to yourself or to the board or to the elders. I've even talked to some churches. This is like a real cheat code. I've talked to a few church leaders that added somebody up the chain in the denomination to the ChurchTrac account just so that they could automate the accounting reports being sent to them, like
so
monthly
then
or
they're
something.
denominational reporting.
Yeah, so whatever they have to send
They
up
don't
the
have
chain.
to remember to do it themselves.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, just, oh man, that's big brain stuff.
Yeah. Well, and this is obviously we don't have the time to cover like how to do an automation from scratch and everything. And
But we have
what
a
it
user
entails.
guide for that.
Yeah, we have videos. So watch our videos on that. We probably need to update a few of those. But yeah, like an application automation here, and then I go to create it. And I think what's so wild about this, Matt, is whenever I'm adding all these things I want it to do. So like in this case, I want it to be a email and accounting screen report, and then I can select what report. And so I can say, hey, I want it to send the budget versus actual. I want to send it to Wes, and I want to pull it from this budget and then save it. And then I can add other ones. So like at a certain time every month, maybe like let's say every month on the first, how about first Monday?
Tuesday, because I only work on Tuesdays.
Only work on Tuesday. So on the first Tuesday around 9 a.m., Wes is going to get that accounting report for the budget versus actual, but I could add other accounting reports. So then, or you could add other people. So then you have like one report, it's going to multiple people, or multiple reports going to the same person, or multiple reports going to multiple people. It's like, it's crazy.
Easy.
It's amazing.
Pro tip number 3 is to use your accounting tags. So whenever you're in the accounting page and you're in the register and you want to update a transaction, you have the opportunity to add at least one tag to that transaction. This will help you find that transaction in a search in the future. So long as you've like standardized the tags that you're using, you can then hop into the search tool and easily look up transactions that have that tag.
Yeah, so for this one, I'm going to say evaluate. I put this tag on every vendor that we're thinking about getting rid of. Sorry, Matt. But
I'm not going to get that $200 after all.
well, it's just we got quoted from a church member with a better rate for our lawn
For
care.
$199? Come on. All right. Number 4 is to use the attachments. You can attach virtually anything to a transaction, not just like a PDF. You can add whatever. I've even seen churches like take a photo of a receipt and just upload that photo. Whatever you've got, add it to that transaction. That way you don't have to have paper records stored in a file cabinet. It's just all right here.
You know what's really funny?
What's really funny, Wes?
I talked to a church who they paid for like this ebook that was for like their church leadership.
Ebook?
Okay. It was an ebook,
Yeah.
but and they paid like $5 for this ebook on church leadership.
Okay.
And they put it in their accounting screen. Then they dragged and dropped that ebook into the file
The whole
attachment.
book?
Yes, because that way they saved it and they knew like, oh, here's the attached ebook.
That's amazing.
So I just thought that was so
my
funny.
God.
It's
That's so funny.
Well, Wes,
cool.
one of the things that I really love about this attach files option is when I'm reconciling, because you know I nerd out on accounting.
Yes.
So when I reconcile and I finish it, I can create the transaction in here and call it whatever I want. It's a $0 transaction. I can name my payee reconciliation for X whatever
So what, this
month.
is like a journal entry or something?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a journal
yeah.
entry that I can drop in and say, so this way there's a continuous paper trail. If there are questions and something happens to me and a new treasurer has to come in, they have everything I've always done.
Lord, nothing's going to happen to you. All right, more pro tips, Matt.
Well,
what do you got?
last one, and what you just said segues perfectly into it, and that is to reconcile.
It's true.
Always be reconciling. Don't let it go months and months without having touched the reconciliation feature because
it's too easy.
Well, it's not just that it's too easy, it's crucial.
Yes.
You need it for accountability and transparency so that you can guarantee yourself and to the rest of the team that this hasn't been manipulated, it's not been touched, it's all been verified with the bank that everything is correct so that you can move forward with that confidence knowing that you stewarded the resources properly.
I love how you
This
put
is
that.
so important that we made a video. Did y'all see this? I'm just now realizing this. This is back before I had my first child, and my hair is all kinds of crazy. And Lori
Not as
looks,
many grays.
Lori looks exactly the same. But why reconcile? And even though my hairdo is out of date, the content we covered in why reconcile is
still
still
relevant.
as relevant today as it ever was. Just in the same way that the Word of God is relevant today as it always was. And do you have a good scripture for us, Lori, to share just to kind of as a good takeaway?
Yes, I actually looked one up, Wes.
What is it?
Colossians 1:20 through 21. And through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace by the blood of his cross. And you, who once were alienated and hostile in mind, doing evil deeds, stop doing the evil, just reconcile.
That's right. I know we egregiously took the word reconcile out of context in God's word, but I mean, we got to have some fun here. And yeah, please reconcile. All right, that was good stuff,
That was
Matt.
really good stuff. This whole thing was great.
I have one last pro tip that we already said earlier, but I want to encourage you all out there, like accounting, especially, hello, I'm a worship leader. Accounting's not my thing. I mean, I can do it and I've done it, but like, I'd rather play my guitar. And if you're like me and you're like, I'd rather play my guitar, well, reach out to our team and take a look at our class service. Or if you're just in a situation where like, hey, I've got this, but like, I just need some help. Well, reach out to our team and get some help. That's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, I think we should answer questions on live air. There's so many questions.
We're going to go ahead and launch the Q&A. So if everybody can go ahead and start, if you haven't already, share your question in the chat. We'll go ahead and launch that. So the Q&A has begun. I'll go ahead and just put that comment in there so we all know for a fact Q&A has begun. Go ahead and share your questions. I've just started the Q&A. What we'll do is I'll call out the questions as everything has begun and we'll answer them live. If you asked a question earlier and I missed it, which I covered basically, I answered virtually everything that was dropped in except at the very end, go ahead and bring that into the Q&A. Or if you've been holding on to a question, ask it now. While we're talking about this though, and while you're thinking about this, I just want to remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you can watch all of our future live streams and join those. We'll be doing another Q&A. We'll be doing an accounting live stream, next week, right?
So it's a dedicated finance Q&A, and we're doing this next week. And Lori, you're going to be in on this too, if it's okay with you.
Okay.
Well, it's just because this is such a pivotal time of year for churches.
Yes,
and
it is.
Churches are trying to do a whole lot of stuff with creating their budgets if they haven't already gotten that done. They're trying to get contribution statements out. And they're also, in some cases, churches are picking up the pieces from their last treasurer who may no longer be with the church. Maybe they passed away or maybe whatever.
All kinds of reasons.
There's so many situations and reasons why churches are starting anew for the new year. And so we want to be there to help answer those questions. But again, not official financial questions. We are not certified financial planners. You definitely need to talk to those professionals. But your ChurchTrac financial questions.
Yes. Also join our Facebook group. We would love to see you in that community. It's a great place to ask questions of other people using ChurchTrac because you can get some inspiration and insight from them. Or just ask questions that have nothing to do with ChurchTrac. It's fine. It's a community and a resource for you to help build the body of Christ. So we would love for you to join that. So go ahead and make sure to request to join soon. We've got a couple questions rolling in, so we'll go ahead and tackle these. Prophetess Victoria asked, do you have a video for starting a website? We haven't done a live stream just yet. We're going to soon.
In 2 weeks.
Yeah, in 2 weeks about how to use the Church Connect feature. So definitely stay tuned for that. But we do have videos. We have articles in our user guide. We have videos on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and watch those on how to build a website and how to use Church Connect.
All right. Other questions?
Let's see. Philip Thomas asked, when will we be able to modify or move elements around on the page? Tax receipts reports for individual giving.
So we actually just are getting ready. I don't know if we've released it or not. I think we've actually released the user guide on that. But the important thing to remember about the contribution statement in ChurchTrac is the top content is what is editable. Once you reach that line of where the giving starts, that's not the editable part. That's a hard word. Editable. So that's a hard word for me. The top part is what's changeable, and you can't drag and drop any information. It's actually a report setting that you have to go to and edit the content there. And there is some information in that report that is required by the IRS, so you can't actually take it out. So keep that in mind. If you have a question about what you can change and what you can't change, what you can move, what you can't move, reach out to support, because we can point you to the user guide article. We can also give you some insight into why the report works the way it works. Keep in mind, the contribution statement is for the IRS. It's for tax deductible contributions. That is all it's for. It's not meant to be pretty. It's not meant to be like a thank you letter. You can attach all that, but that report is very basic.
Yeah. It's, sorry, I know this is probably ridiculous to say, but occasionally you'll say things and you'll hear this in the background, and that's Matt mooing in agreement.
Yes.
Just like the ladies in church and the pastor says something really on fire, and then that lady in the front goes, like that's what Matt sounded like right now.
It's the Baptist moo. All right. So, question from Melinda about how to set up liabilities. Ooh. The process is the initial process is the same. You just, on that main accounts screen, you click the add accounts or add bank account button, but you have to make sure that you select in this process that it is a liability as opposed to an asset or an untracked account. So make sure you select that, and when you add that dollar amount, it's going to show up as a negative. So it'll just count against your total amount.
I'm kidding. Not a loan shark. We're using a credit card.
Matt, it's also important to and many times support gets this question, how do I set up a liability? But the question is this liability an account that you're trying to track? Mm-hmm. Or is this an expenditure that you're trying to track? Because that's the difference. So you got to make sure that you understand the terminology for use in ChurchTrac of what the bank account is, which can be a liability like a credit card or a loan or whatever.
Okay.
Or the expense of, am I paying my electric bill, or am I paying that credit card, or that kind of thing.
All right, we're going to get some deep cuts here then. What are some common situations you see, Lori, where a church incorrectly labels whether or not something is a liability?
Well,
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, actually, this happened this week. We actually had a support ticket from a member or from a user, and this was a legitimate confusion. They had set up categories for their credit card. They had set up categories for their loan. They had set up categories and they were trying to track the accounts, if you will, in the categories, and you can't do that. You actually need that physical bank account for that liability, because if I'm going to spend money on a credit card, I'm going to enter transactions in that credit card register for those expenditures. And for that, I would use my normal categories of I went to Walmart and I had to buy office supplies, and I bought the pastor snacks, and I bought coffee, because Lord knows churches go through coffee.
Yes.
So these are things that I could enter into my transaction, but that transaction itself needs to be entered into the correct account for proper tracking.
I think this is a really good opportunity for us to mention too. This is a new feature we came out with, but when you go to add a bank account, is this a financial account that holds a balance you want to track?
Yes.
And so yes for that, and then we have this untracked thing. And so if your church, because there are a lot of churches who want to track something like a mortgage or something of that nature.
Or petty cash.
Yeah. And so
I think that's our example in our user guide is a petty cash. But yes, a mortgage or petty cash. These balances that you're setting up here are not going to show up in your reports, Wes. But the account itself is set up to help you track, if you will, in an untracked account, meaning untracked in reporting, how that money is spent. Okay? So in your untracked, you have a $350. What did you just do?
$350 untracked account.
Okay. Yeah. So when you have a petty cash account, you're moving money into that petty cash, and that's for use for minor things throughout the church, whether it's benevolence of putting gas in somebody's car or buying groceries for a family or an electric bill or whatever. Then you put those transactions, click into that account for me.
Yeah.
You would put those in that account.
Okay.
Okay. Using no categories or funds, just the money. And so that benevolence category, and this what's really cool, this is where I really nerd out, is you could actually set up when you're setting up this account how this would be spent. And most of the time it's either going to be miscellaneous for petty cash or benevolence. So you would set that up, and then when that transaction is recorded, adjust the balance for you.
Yeah. So that way you've got that record of just what's been happening in that petty cash account, or if you're wanting to track a mortgage, which I think that's probably one of the most popular things is churches want to track that principal reduction and everything in their mortgage. Okay, cool. What are some other good questions we got here, Matt?
Yeah. AJ asked, does ChurchTrac print out an actual check that can be cashed by the payees? Yeah. Yeah, it prints onto your checks.
Right.
So you feed your check through the printer. You just have to customize in ChurchTrac the exact layout of how it's printed to match the format of your check. But you can play around with that on just a regular sheet of paper, make sure it all lines up, and then start running your checks through that.
And Lori, I think the last place because we get asked this all the time, like should I buy checks for my church? If your bank doesn't have good rates on the printed checks, Walmart's another popular one.
Walmart.com, and it's a business format. It's an 8.5 by 11 business format check, and it can be a top voucher, a middle voucher, or 3 checks per page.
Yeah.
So easy. And we actually had a customer, Wes, is the one that told us that they use it because it's about a third of the price of what the bank charges for the exact same thing.
There you go. I mean, hey, this is not an official endorsement of Walmart by any means, but at least the core value of intentionally affordable is there, right?
There you go.
All right. What else we got here, Matt?
Yeah. Alexis asked, where are the ChurchTrac Stanleys?
I don't know what that means.
They're not Stanleys, they're Yetis.
So here at ChurchTrac, I wouldn't classify us as like the hip, cool company. We're the company that's about quality.
Yes.
And that's why these are Yetis, not Stanleys. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe I think part of the reason we don't have the Stanleys is because they're so huge. I don't want to have to pay like $17 to ship a Stanley to somebody when I can pay like $7 to ship this bad boy.
Yeah.
Well, and how much space would it take up to have a Stanley sitting up here that's this tall with a straw, whereas these are a little bit more...
I think we're getting on this tangent here. Talk about like max consumerism. People have matching Stanleys for every day of the week to match their outfit. And anyways, maybe we'll get you a Stanley there. Is that who was asking for the Stanley?
It was Alexis.
All right, Alexis.
Yeah. All right. Melinda asked, I'm used to QuickBooks and process payroll. Payroll taxes withheld, I want to list as liabilities and then pay them monthly like I did in QuickBooks. Can I do this in ChurchTrac?
So, Alexis... No, is that right?
Melinda.
No, Melinda. I do apologize. Melinda, the key here is that, Wes, if you'll go to the categories tab for me up at the top in the blue in the menu, scroll down. We actually have, I think you scrolled too far.
Oh, right here.
Payroll taxes. When you're doing your taxes for payroll, it's a category in ChurchTrac, and you're actually going to use those categories for the federal withholding, for their Medicare that they're paying, for their Social Security that's being withheld. You're going to withhold that from their check using categories. So you put the gross amount in, you minus out the taxes. Those taxes then are labeled in your income statement. You could even create a fund or bucket for use with your payroll taxes so that you can see what's in there. And then when you pay your 941, you use those same expense categories to expense that money back to the IRS. So we actually have an amazing user guide article on this that tells you how to record payroll in ChurchTrac.
Yeah, just search payroll in our user guide and you will find that article.
All right. Jeff asked, how can we submit a feature request? This is something that I suggested in the chat a couple of times just because a few of you made some really good suggestions. Just create a support ticket. Or in your account, click the feedback button. In the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's a little button that says feedback. Click on that and let us know there. Every single person at this company reads every single message submitted in that feedback channel.
Yeah.
This isn't being tossed out to the ether. We actually review and assess all of those suggestions.
Yes, we do.
You can also make suggestions in a support ticket. So don't ever hesitate. If you have an idea about what would make the software and your experience in it even better. Yeah, say please, be polite. And then we read every single one. We pass them on to the developers for their consideration. We actually take your suggestions very seriously. So don't hesitate to send us your ideas.
All right, other question.
Epiphany Eden asked, when I have a fund value and an account goes negative, should I do a type of transfer to get it to 0 or positive? I see negative values on our checking account on the fund sheet report.
Okay. This is a little tricky because funds can go negative. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes you spend more money than you actually have in a fund, and the general fund is being used to cover it, and that's okay. But you need to make sure that your financial tracking is accurate, because that if you don't have your category and fund connections made properly, and you're bringing money into that fund and then you're spending money out of another fund or using the wrong fund to begin with, then things get wonky. So there is a transfer that you can do in your account. So if you meant to spend money out of the building fund that happens to have the bulk of its money in the savings account, and you spend it out of the general fund, you can do a fund-to-fund transfer transaction type, and you can move money around. This is only moving money between funds. It is not moving money between categories. Type your description of why you're, and be honest. Like, just
Made a mistake, man.
put your amount that you're transferring. You're going from one fund to another, okay? And you can do this vice versa. It's going to tell you on this transaction, which is my favorite. It tells you exactly what happened in this transaction, okay? And so you took money out of the general fund, you put money into the building fund, it's reflected right there. That's your total in all accounts.
And there we go.
But just keep in mind, funds they can be negative if you spent more money than you had in that fund. It can be. This happens with church camp all the time. You know, we budget this much, we take
Mission
in this much.
trips.
Yeah. We spend more money than we have, and we have to replenish that fund. I mean, it depends on exactly how your church is working for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. In the chat, there were a few questions as well. Milicia asked, when you import your bank statement, it includes income and expenses. How do you move the income to the giving screen? The answer is you don't. When the import is done by the bank, you need to be recording that in the giving screen. You need to be recording donations on the giving screen, and then you can deposit that batch from giving to accounting. Mm-hmm. When the bank sends that over as an import, you can skip those transactions because the bank doesn't know who gave. The bank doesn't know what they donated to at your church. The bank just knows that you got this much money on this day. So you don't use the bank import for giving data. You use the giving screen to record that and then deposit that over into the accounting screen so everything balances out.
And this is probably one of the most common things we get people saying, hey, how come my account balance is going in the negative? I'm pulling all this money in from the giving screen. Well, you are, but you need to make sure you're making those deposits into that proper account. And so whenever I make that deposit and then I shoot back over to the accounting screen, well, I go to that checking account. And I can see that $500 giving deposit. And if it was to different categories and everything, it would all show up there. Love it.
Yep. Paul asked, do you have a video on payroll? Actually, yeah, we do. This is not a payroll software, but if you go to the support page, there's an article on how to do and record payroll in ChurchTrac with a video. So we explain how to use ChurchTrac to track that expense. So definitely check that out. Rena asked, do I have to establish a Stripe account to link my accounts? Nope. You don't need a Stripe account. You don't have to set that up. That's all done. And you just use the bank sync feature. It's all done for you. So you don't need that.
Your Stripe account, though, setup would need to be done if you wanted to do online giving for your church. And so if you wanted them to be able to use that feature, and then that's another perk of giving to accounting and updating everything too.
Well, fun fact, the average church that switches to ChurchTrac online giving, and I'm talking about a small church, saves over $600 a year in giving fees.
Well, there's a woot.
There's a woot.
That's pretty great.
That's amazing.
Let's see here. Tanya asked, we've had Stripe charge someone's fee for a denied payment to another person's deposit. How do we catch that? And without having to spend hours watching Stripe, ChurchTrac, and our bank account. You would need to reach out to Stripe support for that. That's not something that we can manage if they're charging something incorrectly.
It also might be that it was withheld from a specific payout date that had nothing to do with with the person who gave, because Stripe will withhold fees from payouts at specific intervals. So if somebody's giving transaction bounced or was declined for some reason after the fact and a fee was charged, Stripe would withhold that fee from a random payout not necessarily from someone's specific deposit.
Pamela asked, "Are gifts in kind part of your budget?" No.
Nope.
No. That's donations made of physical or just non-money donations. A budget is to track monies, so in-kind donations can't be budgeted.
Which is probably worth saying. Anytime you record in-kind donations in ChurchTrac, it's always a $0 amount on the giving
Always.
screen.
Always. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and end the Q&A. I know that there's a few questions that were still hanging out in the chat that we weren't able to tackle today. But if you have any remaining questions, we have a support team. They're amazing, and they're really fast in responding. Heck, with all the questions we got today and how long it took for us to get to some of them, the support team may be able to answer them faster than we could today. So send a support ticket. Just click that orange help button in the top right corner of the screen in your account. Ask us a question, and we'll be more than happy to assist you from there.
Please.
And we have so many, just to keep everybody in the loop. So next week, so the recording of this today is January, what is today?
14th.
January 14th. So a week from today, we are doing our next live stream on church finance, and it's just a Q&A. We're just going to be answering all of your questions, finance related. And then after that, we're going to be doing another live stream on Church Connect. We'll be putting out information, sending out emails about that. And during this time of year, we also do weekly Getting Started live streams. And so you can check those out as well. And lots of live streams, lots of great
Lots of
content.
live streams.
Lori, thank you for joining us. I know
Yes,
we don't
thank
get
you.
to have you in these live streams as often because you're so busy leading our amazing support team. So thank you for joining us on this one.
You're welcome. Apparently, I'm joining you next week, too.
You are.
We need you,
just
Lori.
because we already know what's going to happen is we're going to get certain accounting and giving questions that are just way above my pay grade. And we need the big guns in here for that.
Well, I appreciate that.
So that'll be fun. And yeah, and just a reminder, just reach out to us if you need help. We're here. We're always here. Well,
Always
unless
here.
we're sleeping, and that's a different story. We can't answer support tickets in our sleep. But we will talk to you all soon. See you in the next live stream.